Let's talk money for a moment, students. The philosophy of money. I'm a worker during the Industrial Revolution. This is my paycheck. Should I get to keep all of it? Or should I give a part of it to a neighbor who is in need? This is a simple way of thinking about capitalism, communism, and socialism. And in Unit 6, Lesson 4, we're going to be talking about these economic theories. We're going to be talking about Adam Smith and how he thinks up capitalism. And we're going to be talking about Karl Marx, who also thinks up an economic theory, but he devises communism. Let's turn to page 8 and let's start Unit 6, Lesson 4 of the industrialization and imperialism of the world. The guiding question for today is, how did the Industrial Revolution create differing economic theories? Capitalism and market competition fueled the Industrial Revolution. What is market competition? Well, here you have 3 different fast food restaurants. They are a part of the same market. They sell fast food. They are all competing for profits. They're competing for fast food dollars. And this is at the heart of what capitalism is, competing for profits. Let's define this phrase further. Capitalism is an economic system in which the means of production of goods and services are privately owned and operated for a profit. The United States government does not own McDonald's, Burger King, or Wendy's. They are privately owned, and they make decisions that are private. The government does not have to sign off or approve the decisions made. Beyond taxes and laws, the government does not control how the business is operated or how the income is used. Who created the theory of capitalism? Adam Smith, who has the nickname the father of capitalism. He was born in 1723 in the European country of Scotland. He wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations in 1776, which was really the foundation of economic theory. And in his Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith first talks about a division of labor that focuses the worker on one specific job. If you're a worker at McDonald's, you might only be the cashier, or you might only put the sandwiches together. The Wealth of Nations also talked about the productivity and how that increases profit. If you give a worker a specific job, that will increase productivity, and that will increase the amount of money that you make as a company. And lastly, Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations talked about the free market. The free market is an economy that runs without government interference, and businesses are rewarded for good products and good prices by an invisible hand. People will go toward the good product and prices. And those who don't have good products and prices will fail. That's capitalism. What are the pros and cons of capitalism? What's good about capitalism is that it created a rise in standard of living for many citizens, not all. It provided growth for the middle class, the center social class. And capitalism also rewards entrepreneurs. These are people who risk their wealth to create a business which leads to more jobs. Speaking of jobs, Steve Jobs, the former CEO of Apple, he's an example of an entrepreneur, a businessman who takes a risk. What's bad about capitalism? Well, capitalism can create an unequal distribution of wealth, guaranteeing a rich-poor divide. Some people will have a lot, some people will have a little, and that creates conflict, tension, maybe even war at its most extreme. Dissatisfaction with poor working conditions and the unequal distribution of wealth in society leads to this idea of communism. The workers in the Industrial Revolution are not happy. They work long hours for little pay. Meanwhile, the mining CEO makes all of the money and sets all of the rules. That is unfair. So communism develops. What is communism? It's an economic system in which private property and social classes don't exist, and the government owns all things necessary to make and transport products. And this is the symbol of communism. Here is the hammer, and this tool is called a sickle. Both of these are tools of the worker, and they're a symbol of communism. What are examples of communist countries? We need to make this clear. A truly communist society has never existed in history because communism assumes there is no personal ambition. It assumes that I am okay with giving away all of my private property and giving away most of my wealth to someone else, even though I have earned these things. So all citizens are paid the same in communism. All citizens own equal amounts of land, equal-sized houses, and there's no need to fight. There's no need to even have money in the first place. That's why a truly communist society is unrealistic. However, there have been countries who have been and are communist in nature. China, Cuba, Vietnam, and Russia, when it was the Soviet Union, had some communist ideas in its government and economy. Who created the theory of communism in the first place? It was this bearded man, Karl Marx. He was born in 1818 in Germany, and he wrote two important books, the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital. He wrote these two with his friend and fellow economist, Friedrich Engels. And these books both talked about the redistribution of wealth. The plan was to fix the injustices of capitalism so that the working class was treated the same as the ruling class. No more harsh working conditions and no more fat cat businessmen earning all of the money. What is socialism? Socialism is an economic system that works to meet the basic needs of an entire society. How is socialism done? Well, there's a centrally planned economy in which the government controls major industries. The government might control the banks, or all of the hospitals, or all of the energy companies. And socialism involves many social programs. That's where the name comes from. Social programs might be free housing programs, free food programs like food stamps, and socialism also involves high taxes. So let's talk about the differences between capitalism, socialism, and communism. Socialism is a mix of ideas about capitalism and ideas from communism. Let's take a look at capitalism versus socialism, two different ideologies or ways of thinking about economies. Capitalism, as we've said, involves competition. Businessmen, companies, markets competing. And in socialism, you have cooperation between companies, between people. Socialism versus communism. What are the differences between these two isms? Well, let's take a look at cows. In socialism, say you own 2 cows, but socialism would require you to give one to your neighbor. In communism, you have your 2 cows, and the government takes both of your cows and gives you the milk from those cows. So you see the slight differences in what you're allowed to keep in terms of your private property. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. Before you go, please answer those summary questions. And when you're done with those summary questions, here is a preview of Lesson 5. We're going to be talking about European imperialism in the 1800s. How do the countries of Western Europe take over China and India and Japan and dominate their economies for financial benefit? Once again, it's motivated by money. Until that lesson, this is Mr. Deegan signing off.